Will sporting worlds collide for the San Francisco 49ers? Why? They're exactly like Masters champion Rory McIlroy. And what about some draft trade scenarios for the Niners? Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Love our everydayers. If you're new to the program, welcome. Please subscribe and become an everydayer. Hang out with us every day, breaking down the draft, breaking down everything going on with the Niners all the way through to the 2025 season and beyond on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, FanDuel customers, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets. All you got to do is win your first $5 bet. And now, let's bring on today's guest.
I don't buy it. Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
Hit the wrong button there.
I liked it.
Look, as now an avid golfer, I'm excited about this topic that you wanted to get into, Wink, as you were watching the Masters last weekend and watching Rory McIlroy get over the hump and finally win his Masters. And by the way, Croc, how's your golf game coming along? Because I got a golf story of my own, and I love that there's a golf topic and gives me a reason to talk about it right now because I'm excited about my own personal golf game. And I know you're working hard on it in the summer, Croc, but as a head coach now of Stag High, I don't know if you have enough time to get those rounds in.
All my extra time goes into these kids and trying to figure this whole thing out. But I am hoping I can have my mornings back. And there was a time every morning I was going out to the range or I was playing the par 3 course out here in Stockton and played a few bigger courses. So I really have to get back to that. Definitely not looking like McIlroy, who just won the Masters.
I mean, and the timing was perfect. I was out on the course this Saturday, and just like Rory McIlroy, I summited the peak of my own personal golf game and broke 80 for the first time. I shot a 79, wow. And I didn't even know I shot a 79 until I added it up because I thought I had a chance early in the round. I had a little trouble to start the back nine. Had a triple bogey on like hole 10 and 18. I had a nice drive, middle of the fairway, at about 130 yards out. Peacock Gap, my home course, I call it. They don't give me a discount, but 130 yards out, and I hold it. An eagle on 18.
Epic.
And added it up, and I was shocked to see the score 79. I broke 80, and I would have gone even crazier if I'd have even known that I was sitting at 70 or at 78 when I made that shot. 79, I broke 80 for the first time. It was my goal to do this year. Now I don't know what to do because I already accomplished my goal. I wonder if Rory McIlroy woke up on Monday morning and doesn't know what to do with himself now after winning the Masters.
I wonder if you would have broke 80 if you knew you were close to breaking 80. Because that's a different level of pressure. And we know with golf, it's a lot of it's kind of mental, and you can, that swing just 1 centimeter or smidge this way or that way, and the ball can kind of shift. And I think if you knew hey, you're sitting at 78, you make this, you break 80. Would you have kind of overthought some of those last few putts?
I would have shanked it into the woods, 100%. No chance of it.
Which is what Rory was trying to do
in
the last round and in the multiple rounds leading up to winning his career Grand Slam. But it's funny because the reason I brought this up is so you can brag, obviously, because breaking 80 is a monumental feat for any golfer out there. They know it's huge. It's fantastic. But no, seriously, as I was watching it, I was like, okay, this kind of reminds me of the 49ers a little bit. And here's why. So Rory's won majors before, right? He's won all of them. He won the U.S. Open. He won the British. He's won the PGA. But for 12 years or 13 tries, he couldn't win the Masters. He kept trying and trying and trying. So it reminded me of the 49ers and how in the past they've had a lot of success when it's come to winning Super Bowls, right? They won their first 5. They were 5-0 in Super Bowls. It was okay, they're never going to lose the Super Bowl. That's kind of the one thing I remember as a 49er fan. being like, oh, well, we've never lost a Super Bowl. We've always won it. It's been fantastic. And then they got some tries at it, right? And they didn't win against the Ravens. And then, as we know, the 2 losses to the Chiefs. And it's like, will the 49ers be able to be like McIlroy and kind of get over that hump and get over that mental hurdle that you talked about when it comes to golf? And maybe not so much the 49ers. Like, maybe this is actually more of a Kyle Shanahan thing. Maybe it's more of a, because as you see, I mean, I'm sure you guys saw the video of Rory McIlroy just losing it, just falling, collapsing to his knees and just bawling and sobbing and just this huge burden that he had. Kind of like Steve Young, right? Taking the monkey off his back. Like, those things mean a lot to professional athletes and to coaches and to things like that. And so you wonder if that weighs so heavy on Kyle that is maybe getting in the way of the 49ers finally winning that number 6 and propelling themselves to the top of the NFL world when it comes to franchises. And I hope they can have their Rory McIlroy moment and kind of, see Kyle like that on the side, because you've seen the opposite side of it, right? You've seen him sitting in the locker room, with his hands on his knees, just looking distraught, just looking like, is this ever going to happen for me? Did I blow it? Was this my only chance? That sort of thing. So I saw a lot of parallels to that, and I'm hoping that they can finally take that step and finally have that Rory McIlroy moment for Kyle and the rest of the 49ers.
Well, you know what it may take? It may take the 49ers being on the Hard Knocks, because I wonder how much being on full swing helped McIlroy. We got to see that whole process kind of play out.
Yeah.
The mindset behind things, kind of the pressure that was on him, the whole, the Live Tour stuff with the PGA Tour stuff, and how he was kind of the man out in front of a lot of that stuff as far as being on PGA Tour side. But we saw that whole thing, and then I think it made everybody really like joyful and happy for him to get this Masters.
I think that what you just said was great, real quick, because for a while McIlroy was the villain. When you had these USA versus the Euro Cup, like he was the bad guy. The USA was not rooting for him. They were like booing Rory and all this, and he was talking trash and this and that. But to go on full swing, and like you said, kind of like with the Mahomes stuff when he was on quarterback, or Kirk Cousins, like I don't like either one of those guys. And afterwards, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, cool. yeah. So maybe you're right.
And I love those shows for that reason. I'm sure there's some 49ers that'd be really fun to get a little bit more personality from and see them and in action and really what makes guys tick. And because I don't watch a lot of golf. I play way more golf than I watch. And really when I watch golf, all it makes me do is want to go play golf. And so like, I don't really know that much about golf. I didn't watch golf growing up. I know the stars and I know some players. But I was kind of shocked at how everyone was like rooting for him, and people were going crazy. Like they loved Roy, and they were so excited to see him win that tournament. And I know 49ers fans would feel the same way about the San Francisco 49ers finally getting over the hump. And I wonder if there would be tears of joy from Kyle Shanahan to finally get there, because I think he is kind of gripping it pretty tight right now. He's kind of feeling the pressure from it. There was that famous photo that someone posted of him. First of all, I think it was a late night at the owners meeting the night before, but it showed him and just like how, beat he looks compared to when he, got hired for the job 8 years ago, and fresh face Kyle Shanahan at the press conference and the number that'll do on you. So it would be nice to see, the famous photograph of Kyle Shanahan winning the Super Bowl, maybe even tears of joy instead of him just being completely distraught and sitting there in the locker room with like the blank stare up against the cart, right? The whatever it is, the cart with all the gear that they have in the locker room. There's that famous photo of him sitting there, and
we've all got that image burnt into our brain, right?
Speaking of photography, did you see the now famous viral photos from the Masters? There's some really good ones of Rory winning, but Ken Griffey Jr., the Hall of Fame baseball player, took some of these photos. He was he got into photography, and he was a credentialed photographer for Getty Images for the Masters.
Wow.
Ken Griffey Jr. I was like, wait a second, what? Someone said that, and I was like, oh, there just happens to be somebody else named Ken Griffey Jr. Like, no, the Ken Griffey Jr. was a photographer for the Masters and took some iconic now photos, which is pretty awesome.
Can you imagine if your name was Ken Griffey, but you were also a second and you were a junior?
Like, good name, Dad. Thanks.
Yeah.
Dude,
real original.
I grew up with
he does have a son, Ken Griffey.
So the third, huh?
Remember he played I think he played football for University of Arizona. He was a receiver.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. That's right. My good buddy growing up was named Michael Jackson.
I've known a couple Michael Jacksons throughout the day.
He changed that. He's like, you know what, man? I'm
Just call me Mike.
I'm done being the king of pop. Let's go something else.
My biological dad, and I was a little bit older when I found out who my real dad was, but his name is Michael Johnson. So like the track star.
Track sprinter, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Let's get into some draft trade scenarios. And a lot of people want the 49ers to trade down in the first round. Not that easy, guys. Takes two to tango. What are some scenarios that could actually play out for the San Francisco 49ers in the 2025 NFL draft? Next. Today's episode is sponsored by LinkedIn and LinkedIn Jobs. And as a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free. Share it with your network and get qualified candidates all in one place. And look, let's be honest, everyone's already on LinkedIn, right? And so you can find the exact person you need, the ideal candidate with deep candidate insights at LinkedIn. LinkedIn's new features can help you write job descriptions. They know that you don't have a lot of time potentially, and you're wearing a lot of hats as a small business owner. So you can quickly get your job in front of the right people with those deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip, by the way. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, guys. Could the 49ers trade down in the NFL draft? I think that could be a scenario that, and I see a lot of people say, hey, 49ers, trade down. I see a lot of mock draft simulator mocks, and the 49ers are trading down. And then I've done some myself, and I look at it, and I say, okay, so-and-so team, traded up. And it's like Indianapolis Colts offer their second-round pick, number 54 or whatever it is, to trade up 3 spots to go from 14 to 11 with the San Francisco 49ers. I'm like, okay, that's a quick accept. I will accept that trade, right? Then you go down to 14, and then you look up and you're like, wait a second, what did they do? I mean, they traded up to get a tight end, and there was another tight end that, was probably going to be there for him before. Is that a realistic trade? I don't think it is. So what would be the actual trade that the 49ers could see? So I want to run through some of these scenarios, and you guys let me know if you have any scenarios that you think makes sense for the San Francisco 49ers, because sure, you would like to trade down, right? But what, and we touched on this a little bit on the last episode, Croc and I did. What if the only trade offer the 49ers get is from, say, the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants, at the top of round 2? Would you drop all the way out of the first round? And what would you have to get in return to accept a trade like that? Because in the long term, traditionally, I would like to have a Cleveland Browns future first round pick, because that would turn out to be a pretty darn good draft pick in a lot of cases, right? So if the Browns are like, hey, we want to go up and say Shedeur Sanders is still on the board, and they drafted Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter at number 2, they're like, we're going to go up and get a quarterback. Hey, 49ers, here's pick 33 and next year's first round pick. Do you almost have to say, okay, we have to accept this trade if you're the 49ers?
But aren't you a 49ers team that's in win now mode? So that first round next year isn't going to help you at all this year, right?
Well, are the 49ers in win now mode?
Right.
I think they were. All the signs that they're kind of giving us and what they're telling us is that maybe they are kind of retooling for the following season. And that's not to say that they shouldn't be good this year or be a playoff team. I'm sure like the standard is a standard. That's what they're going to go for. But in the sense of from a business decision, like business moves decisions, I think last year they were really all in. I think this year is like, okay, let's build this thing back up. Let's add some guys here and there. Let's get some guys. So for that reason, I think you probably stay back at 11 and draft someone you feel like will be a starter, so that starter will be much better for you next year when you are potentially trying to go all in.
Well, I know when we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Croc, I know you were all about moving up. Trip maybe packaging something and moving up and getting a real stud player. I don't know. Are you still on that little that kick? Because I like that idea. I love it.
I'm more for that than I am for moving back.
Right.
Now again, here's the thing at pick 11, right? Like you're kind of on that cusp of the like legit top 10 prospects, and now from 11 to 25, they're kind of similar. I don't know how I feel about going all the way back to 33 though.
Yeah, you don't. It would be tough. You would be probably moving out of a tier of prospect if you're the 49ers. Certainly going that far back, and there's going to be players you probably still like, and then you would draft again at 43, and you could add a lot of depth to your football team. But like I would say that you almost can't say no to that if you're getting a future first round pick. Although, what happens if? Look, the Browns will be starting a rookie quarterback. So that's the thing. If you move back with the Giants, you move back with the Browns, those teams could end up having pretty good defenses and have some pieces on offense, but they would be starting that rookie quarterback. That usually means they don't win a lot of games.
Usually doesn't work.
A future first round pick and what else? Like I know pick 33. Yeah. Like I would need 33 and I would need your third round pick. Like, it's like I need that top of the third round pick. I need pick 33 and a first next year for me to move back, 20 plus spots.
And that's why I think the Browns, and actually I had this in my latest mock draft. Go listen to it on Peacock and Williamson NFL show from earlier this week. I did project this trade, but it was with the Carolina Panthers at number 8, so it actually went higher. And that's kind of the thing is like, man, if a team's willing to do all this, they could probably get up higher than the 49ers anyway, if you're starting to dangle future first round picks.
Right.
But it was so it would be probably at least the Browns could pull this off too, which is why I projected this move, is because they have an extra third round pick too. And so future one, a third this year, they could probably get up 11 and maybe potentially even higher than that. I had them trading up with the Carolina Panthers there to go do that and pull off the move where they end up with both Colorado Buffaloes in Hunter and Shedeur Sanders.
Well, like you said, Peacock, I think that scenario might only happen if somebody starts to fall, right? Somebody that was projected high that starts to fall, and then the 49ers are sitting there and people are like, wow, we really want this guy. Now we can throw out a future first or something.
It almost has to be like a quarterback, because if, say, Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter or Mason Graham or whoever starts to fall,
draft him.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. And so what's actually the scenario? And so it starts to get a little bit more difficult to even picture the scenario of what player that would be that a team would want to go up and get, that the 49ers wouldn't also just want to take at 11 if something surprising happened at pick 11, that player was there for them. Now, it is possible everyone's got a different board, and there might be a team that sees a different break in talent and maybe drop back a little bit, with 16, 17, 18. And maybe it works out to where you think you still have a player who's of a similar grade. But here's the other part of trading back is the 49ers, even if they're not in win now mode, they weren't in win now mode in 2017, but they were only willing to move back one pick. They moved back with the Bears one pick, right? And then moved back up in the first round to get Reuben Foster. That was 2017 when the roster was garbage that they inherited, right? And then in 2020, what did they do? They moved back one singular pick with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Bucs went up and got Tristan Wirfs, and the Niners moved back one spot from what was it, 13 to 14, right? And drafted Javon Kinlaw. So they have traded down twice, but it's only been one pick in the first round. And they've moved up a lot more than they've moved down. I think the San Francisco 49ers have. And so I just don't know if Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are really wired that way. I think they're just too competitive, and they see these players they want. Like, we want the best players. We don't want to move down. We get worse players if we move down. We want the best players. For that reason, I think it's unlikely the 49ers. And so it takes two to tango. I just don't see any big trades coming. And right now, the 49ers have so many picks, too. So it's like, you're going to move down one or two spots and get a fourth. You already have 2 fourth-round picks. So
they are a team that does. I mean, they get the moving and shaking, though.
Yeah, they're not afraid to
draft.
For sure.
A few years ago, we were shocked that they did not make one trade to change spots in the draft, because prior to that, I think the year before, every single pick they had was not where they originally were selecting.
Yeah. I think you're right.
And that may have been the Ayuk Ayuk and Kinlaw draft, maybe.
I think it was
A lot of
right.
movement, but that's been consistent that
Mhm.
we will move around. We're gonna move up. We're gonna move back. We're gonna trade up. Let's get Ambry Thomas. Like they did a lot of that.
More on the 49ers draft trade scenarios coming up next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. The NBA playoffs, they're here. And FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on all of that NBA action, because right now, when you join FanDuel, new customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Love FanDuel, making betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props and live prop bets that you can turn into same game parlays if you want a chance to win even bigger. And of course, you can bet on everything else. We're talking NHL. We're talking Major League Baseball, getting going now every single day. San Francisco 49ers playing some good baseball right now. I like watching that. Jung-Hoo Lee's better than Shohei Ohtani right now, right? So things going good for the San Francisco 49ers. You might want to put some money that way. And of course, NFL draft props. Bet on your San Francisco 49ers draft picks. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com or download the app and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That is FanDuel.com. Speaking of 49ers football and draft trades, if the Niners move down, let's not pretend they're not going to move back up from 43 as well. So I think the more likely move the 49ers make when it comes to draft trades isn't moving down from 11. It's probably moving up from pick 43 and being like, okay, look, you see all these 30 visits the 49ers are bringing in. And that's why it's like, okay, some early down defensive ends, some day 2 defensive linemen. There's been a lot of talk about corners maybe for the 49ers, wide receivers. Niners need some linebackers as well. They might be sitting there at 43 and thinking, man, this guy's starting to creep. We really like him. We might have even drafted him at 11 if the guy we took wasn't there, and he's still falling down round one. The Niners within striking distance. Don't be shocked if the Niners get up, draft in the 30s, maybe even draft in the 20s, and spend some of these extra picks to go up, because that's just, again, that's how they're wired. They're competitive. And it's not that they're trying to build for the future and add draft picks and stuff. I think they had to get the money right. But you know what are cheap as far as salary goes? Is rookies. So, you don't have to pay him that much. You can spend draft picks. Niners aren't afraid to spend draft picks.
What about if they go the opposite way, right? I mean, maybe, Croc, this question's for you as our DB specialist here, but it's being reported Miami's trying to shop Jalen Ramsey. I know it's a 30-year-old cornerback, maybe, but how much tread's left on the tire? Maybe you shop a few of those extra draft picks that the 49ers have this year and bring in a veteran like that. You like that move?
I think the 49ers, obviously, cap-wise, are trying to make room for Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Man, if you brought in Jalen Ramsey, and not to play cornerback. I know the 49ers are looking at, potentially adding an outside cornerback for the starting position, but Jalen Ramsey at safety, I think that's a spot where he would excel. He's so smart. He's still gifted physically. Maybe he's not his peak physical self, but he's still a playmaker. He's just on the books for a lot of money. Yeah. I wonder how that worked with 49ers, but that seems like a more win now move, but it was definitely something that would extend his career.
I could absolutely see that late career, the Rod Woodson, Charles Woodson thing, and obviously Ramsey's played a lot of different roles in his career already, but maybe you lose that step and later in your career, still athletic, still smart player, and signs with the San Francisco 49ers as a free safety. I would like that. I could absolutely see that late career. A lot of talk is about Trey Hendrickson and those sort of ideas and rumors. The 49ers aren't going to take on that kind of salary right now. Yeah, they're not going to trade for someone that they have to re-up to some huge contract. And so if they traded for somebody, one of the ideas I've seen that actually starts to make some sense is Kayvon Thibodeau from the New York Giants, because he is still on his rookie contract. And you would probably have to pay him at some point eventually, right? But right now you wouldn't have to. And the New York Giants, if they end up drafting edge rusher Abdul Carter at pick number 3, I think Kayvon Thibodeau could be had, and potentially for what his talent level is as a former top 10 pick. And Niners do have some needs, and they need a pass rusher. They need some defensive linemen. As far as like impactful veteran player trades, he's still on his rookie contract. And if you're looking for a player that the 49ers could bring in trade and maybe spend some of their draft picks in that sort of a way, I would say someone like Kayvon Thibodeau could actually be an option and might make some sense for the 49ers. So that's one that is somewhat intriguing to me. I don't know what the ask would be because he's nearing the end of his rookie contract. He's going into year 4 or year 3. Kayvon Thibodeau. I can't remember which year he was drafted, but he's still on his rookie contract. So it wouldn't cost the Niners a lot right now. You might eventually have to sign him sometime soon and maybe even next offseason. But this offseason, he wouldn't cost you a lot in salary. Kayvon Thibodeau is an interesting name.
But what in draft stock, what would that cost, right? I mean, what would you be willing to give up for a guy like that?
A second?
Less. I think he would probably be like pick 100, pick 113. I think that's probably
that seems like a smart move. If you work that out.
Yeah, maybe pick 75.
The Chase Young type of kind of trade.
Yeah, and Chase Young ended up being a comp third.
That to me seems like a move. We're all in, right? It was like, hey, let's go get Randy Gregory. Let's go get Chase Young. Like, let's try to get this team over the hump. And the 49ers played in the Super Bowl.
It's close.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're at right now, but Peacock and I on Tuesday's recording or for Wednesday. No, excuse me. For Tuesday's episode.
Yeah.
We looked at the defensive roster and there's a lot of areas where you ideally would want to see the 49ers get better. Like this is not the same roster defensively as it was, a couple years ago. It really, looking at that, it kind of worries me a little bit. I don't want to be like, negative Nancy or anything like that, but to just see how many guys where it's like, he's not really a starter. He's not a starter. He's not a starter. He's not a starter. You go through that. Then you look at the offensive side and it's like, well, he's coming off of an injury. He's coming off of an injury. He's coming off of an injury. It's a weird spot where the 49ers are at because the expectations are, they'll be healthier and they will no longer be a 6-win team. It'll be a team that now can go back to being that competitive, conference championship favorite team. And looking at the roster today, I'm just like,
you're not being negative. You're being real. I mean, you're looking at this and you're seeing guys, like you said, coming off injuries. Guys where you look at the defense, you're like, there's 3 or 4 guys that I'd keep and everybody else is probably replaceable.
There's a linebacker. I still don't know who he is. The Gifford guy.
I think that's more of a special teams move. The 49ers have gotten better on special teams. But that's, that's one of the few places where they've added some guys and, depth linebacker, depth DBs, depth pieces that are more special teams guys than will make an impact probably on the defense. They need guys who are going to start and potentially make an impact on the defensive line and linebacker. And, we have a pretty incomplete team otherwise right now coming out of the draft, but actually probably I would say dark horse for one of those first 2 draft picks for the Niners is linebacker too. Could like Jihad Campbell, could he be kind of the it wouldn't be a complete shock, I don't think, but Jihad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama, could he be the selection at 11 for the 49ers? Carson Schlesinger, player that Croc and I both liked. I think he'd be worth that 43rd pick in the draft in the second round. I could see either of those picks, even though I think it feels like the Niners are gearing up to try to hit on another mid-round linebacker, and they've been so good at it that I could see why they would want to go that route, but I don't think we should be shocked at a first or second round pick at linebacker.
I think we're going to see a lot of defensive picks for sure.
You got to. Yeah. The Niners aren't going to compete without getting better on defense, period. Yeah. Wink, as always, appreciate you jumping on the show on another Winky Wednesday. And I blame you. I'm mad at you, but also right now, thank you for helping me get into the game of golf because I really started to get into it during the pandemic because actually one of our listeners, shout out, got us on a country club in Santa Rosa, fed us. We had drinks, and it was me and you and Covey, and we were hanging out golfing. I started golfing a lot at that point, and there was nothing else to do during the pandemic. So I blame Wink for really being one of the people that got me into golf. And it's nice when you shoot a 79. Most of the time, I'd be cursing your name because it's kind of a frustrating sport, but that's what makes it.
I know at first you were cursing my name, and that's okay. And because that's how golf starts. It's not an easy thing to pick up, Absolutely. But once you start hitting it flush, you just like that brings you back every single time.
Feeling. It's the same as why I play slow pitch softball every Monday night. Shout out to my team, Happy Mondays. It's that there's something deep inside. You make that clean contact, that pop of the ball in the leather glove. It's those feelings that you keep coming back for it. And God willing, I'm athletic enough and physically able to keep doing that. I see people golfing out there that are 80 years old, and I'm like, hell yeah, dude.
Let's go.
Hope that's me. Thanks everybody for making this your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Croc and I back tomorrow talking NFL draft, man. We're getting close. We're a week out right here. Locked On 49ers.
See you.
Can't believe it.